Hello everyone, you are watching the Space Channel. Nebulae are the cradle of stars, and they are also their graveyard. It is nebulae that give life to stars, and it is precisely into nebulae that stars transform after their death. Nebulae come in many types. Some are huge, diffuse, dark, and bright. Some are planetary and resemble rings or disks, and some are filamentary, which mostly appear after supernova explosions. Nevertheless, all of them captivate both astronomy enthusiasts and those who simply love looking at colorful photos of these objects taken by space telescopes. Therefore, today, we have selected for you the top 5 best, in our opinion, nebulae of our galaxy. Orion Nebula. The Orion Nebula may not be the most beautiful nebula of all the known ones, but its main advantage is that it can be seen with the naked eye. Under a fairly good unlit rural sky in the constellation Orion, below the asterism Orion's belt, you can notice a nebulous star or a little spot. That is our nebula. In simple, small telescopes or binoculars, it already looks more respectable, and you can distinguish some of its details. Already in a not very powerful telescope, you can notice its wings and the trapezium of the brightest stars in the center. This is a young open star cluster, known as the trapezium, precisely because of its appearance. And in astrophotography, you can already see it in color. In photos from space telescopes, it is incredibly enchanting. The nebula is located at a distance of more than 1,300 light-years from Earth, and its size exceeds 33 light-years. This nebula contains approximately 2,800 stars. Lagoon Nebula. A vast and bright stellar cradle is also the lagoon, which, to notice, you already need to use binoculars because its apparent magnitude is at the threshold of observation with the naked eye. The size of the nebula is 140 by 60 light-years, which is many times larger than the Orion Nebula, but its apparent size is much smaller because it is more than 2.5 times farther from us than the Orion Nebula. The lagoon is located at a distance of 5,200 light-years in the constellation Sagittarius. In the lagoon, there is a small star cluster that is very easy to notice with the simplest astronomical instruments. But I want to warn you so you are not disappointed during observations. Neither in a telescope nor in binoculars will you be able to see the spectacular colors shown in the photos. You will not see color at all. All the nebulae mentioned today, even with powerful telescopes, appear gray because the human eye cannot accumulate photons as a CCD matrix in a camera does, and the glow itself is too weak for our eyes. Crab Nebula. This is the most famous probably nebula, and it belongs to the type of filamentary nebulae, which were formed quite recently. In general, the history of its discovery begins with the observation by Chinese and Arabic astronomers of a new star, a supernova, in the year 1054, the glow of which was also seen in Kievan Rus, as chroniclers wrote. The star then foretold a sad event in Rus, namely the death of Yaroslav the Wise. Now in the place where once a star exploded, we observe a nebula that is called the Crab, because during its observation in the year 1844, one astronomer depicted it as a crab. Now we can already admire a better image, and it is no longer very similar to a crab, but the name took root nicely. At the center of the nebula, there is a neutron star, a pulsar, which illuminates the nebula. You can find the nebula even with binoculars in the constellation Taurus. Of course, you will not be able to see even a crab there, because the filamentary structure itself can be distinguished using larger telescopes. Nevertheless, its elongated shape is quite clearly visible. Of course, in astrophotos, it appears in all its beauty. The Ring Nebula, like the Orion Nebula, is easily found by astronomy enthusiasts with the simplest telescopes. The nebula is located at a distance of 2,000 light-years from our planet. It looks like an elongated ring surrounding a central star, a white dwarf, which is almost invisible but slightly illuminates the ring. The radius of this ring is about 1/3 of a light-year. This is also a fairly young nebula, and given its expansion rate, it is approximately 5,500 years old. The nebula can be easily found in the constellation Lyra. Good reference points can be the two lower stars. The nebula is hidden between them in the middle. Heart and Soul. Suppose they talk about the Heart Nebula. In that case, they will definitely mention its neighbor, the Soul Nebula, because they are located next to each other and at the same distance from Earth, 7,500 light-years in the constellation Cassiopeia. These nebulae are already inaccessible in simple amateur telescopes. They are more often photographed. At the center of the Heart Nebula, as well as in the Soul, there are small groups of stars. These clusters consist of a few bright stars visible with a simple telescope. In photos, the nebulae appear bright red, ionized hydrogen gas, and contain dark dust bands as well as a small open cluster of stars. You will say, well, I have seen on the internet photos of much better nebulae. Still, I believe that the highlight of these nebulae is that they are accessible for observation to almost everyone, have an unusual appearance, and truly make you fall in love with the sky. Well, except for the Soul and Heart nebulae, which are not accessible for observation with simple telescopes, they appear in photos with unusual colors and shapes. That's all for now. If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.